There are 85 kilometres of shelves inside the Vatican. 85 kilometres. That is the distance from Rome to Naples. And almost none of it has ever been seen by outside eyes. The Vatican calls it the Apostolic Archive. For centuries, the world called it something else, the Secret Archive. Officially, it was opened to researchers in 1881. Officially, scholars can request documents. But there are rooms in this archive that no approved researcher has ever entered. There are documents that do not appear in any catalogue. And there are answers buried in those shelves that the Church has spent 500 years making sure you never find. The Vatican's Secret Archive is not a legend, it is a real place in a real building inside Vatican City. Since 1881, qualified researchers, historians, theologians, academics can apply for access. They sit in a reading room. A librarian brings them documents. They take notes. They leave. But there are rules. You cannot request a document unless you already know it exists. You cannot browse freely. You cannot see what is on the shelves. You are shown what the Church decides you are allowed to see. And beyond those reading rooms, deeper in the archive, there are sections that are simply not open, not restricted, not classified, just not accessible. No explanation given, no timeline for opening, just silence. Let's start with what we know the archive contains. In 1633, Galileo Galilei was put on trial by the Catholic Church. His crime, claiming that the earth moves around the sun. The complete transcripts of that trial are in the Vatican Archive. Every question asked, every answer given, every moment of a man being forced to deny what he knew to be true. Researchers have seen these documents. The Church eventually acknowledged, formally, in 1992, that Galileo was right. But Galileo is just the beginning. His trial is in the catalogue. His documents were found. The question is, what hasn't been found? What was never put in the catalogue at all? In 2001, the Vatican published a reproduction of a single document, one document, out of 85 kilometres of shelves. It was called the Chinon Parchment, dated 1308, and it proved that Pope Clement V had privately absolved the Knights Templar of heresy while publicly burning them at the stake. The Knights Templar were the most powerful military order in medieval Europe. They controlled trade routes, banks, and secrets that crossed entire continents. The official story was that they were destroyed for heresy, for worshipping false idols, for conducting blasphemous rituals. The Chinon Parchment says the Pope knew that wasn't true. This document sat in the archive for 700 years before anyone outside the Church saw it. It was not lost. It was not forgotten. It was there, on a shelf, in a box, while the history books said something else. Which raises the obvious question, how many other Chinon parchments are still waiting? Now, the 20th century. In 1933, the Catholic Church signed an agreement with Adolf Hitler, the Reichskonkordat, a formal treaty, still legally enforced today, in exchange for guaranteeing the rights of Catholics in Germany. The Church agreed to stay out of German politics. For decades, historians asked, what did the Vatican know? When did they know it? Why did Pope Pius XII, who led the Church through the entire war, say almost nothing publicly about what was happening to Jewish people across Europe? The Vatican said, the documents are sealed, out of respect for those still living. Researchers waited. For 60 years, they waited. In March 2020, Pope Francis opened the World War II era archives. Historians finally got access to documents covering the papacy of Pius XII. And what they found was complicated. Some evidence of quiet diplomacy, some evidence of looking away. But here is the thing that almost nobody reported. By opening those archives in 2020, Pope Francis implicitly confirmed something. He confirmed that for 80 years, through 2 generations of popes, those documents had been deliberately withheld, not lost, not forgotten, withheld. And if those documents were withheld, what else is being withheld right now? Here is what most people don't know about the Vatican Archive. The catalogue, the official list of what the archive contains, is itself incomplete. Not because of negligence, but by design. Documents created before 1198 are not individually catalogued. They are listed by collection, not by content. Nobody outside the archive knows, document by document, what exists in those collections. Historians estimate there are hundreds of thousands of pages in those early collections that have never been systematically reviewed. But here is the twist that changes everything. In 2019, a team of artificial intelligence researchers working with the Vatican began scanning documents from the archive using machine learning. The project was called the in-codis ratio. Their goal, to transcribe medieval documents too damaged for human eyes to read. Within months, they had processed texts that had sat untouched for 800 years. The Church immediately praised the project, and then, quietly, the external academic collaboration ended. The project continued, but only inside Vatican walls. The results were not made publicly available. So, somewhere in Vatican City right now, an artificial intelligence is reading documents that no living human has read in centuries. And nobody outside those walls knows what it found. The Vatican will tell you the archive is open, and technically that is true. You can apply. You can sit in the reading room. You can read the documents they bring you. But the rooms at the back, the ones not in any catalogue, not on any map, those remain closed. The documents from before 1198, catalogued by collection, not by content, remain unread. And whatever the AI found in those centuries-old pages remains, for now, inside Vatican walls. Here is the question that historians keep asking, and that the Church keeps not answering. If there is nothing to hide, why are some rooms still locked? The Chinon Parchment proved that a document can sit in an archive for 700 years before the world finds out what it says. The World War II archives proved that an institution can withhold inconvenient history for 80 years and call it respect for the living. We don't know what is in the rooms we are not allowed to enter. That is exactly the point.